Hey everyone, welcome back to the Empowering Minds Mental Health Podcast, the podcast where we have real, honest conversations about mental health and healing. And I'm your host, Jennifer, and today I'm excited to share the story of a mother and daughter who have came through their own mental health journeys separately and together, and they came out stronger because of it. They've even written a book called Rootbound: A Mother's Journey, A Daughter's Pain, where they open up about their struggles, their growth, and how their relationship was transformed along the way. It's a story about resilience, hope, and finding your way, even when life gets tough. Right. Welcome to the podcast today. Thank you all, Melanie and Amanda, for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
All
That was
right.
a sweet introduction.
Yeah, that was so great. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. So we're just going to get right into it. What inspired you to open up and write this book together? And Melanie, I'll start with you about what inspired you. And Amanda, I'd love for you to pick up from there and tell us what made you want to bring this life together.
Yeah, so I had gone through a whole kind of awakening to how I had been a controlling mom. And it started for me when Amanda was around 16 years old. And as I got older, I was like, "Ooh, I want to help other controlling moms come out of control and learn to be vulnerable and open with their kids." And when I thought about writing the book, I knew there was like my part was only half the story. Amanda had a whole other part to the story. And in part, the reason I was able to come to that awakening was because of the kind of person Amanda was. She didn't fight, she wasn't a like challenger in the
Mm-hmm.
sense of like fighting me, aggressive, attacking. She was a challenger that was more like quiet, and she'd come up with a question and ask it at the appropriate time. And it'd be that question like, "Oh, I need to like check myself here." So
Mm-hmm.
I went to her and I said, "Will you write this book with me?" And she said yes. Yeah.
Yeah, when she brought the idea to me, she was like, I have this idea and this is what I'm thinking. I really feel like there's a lot of power behind our story. It's really unique how we have worked out our relationship because truthfully, I at 17 was going to move out of the house and be like, I'm done, I'm gone, I'm never coming home again. And we really came a long way. And so people throughout the years have always been like, oh my gosh, like I wish that I had the relationship with my mom like you do, or gosh, I wish I was as close with my kids as like you and your mom are. And so she brought it up and I was like, it actually is pretty unique. That's not normal. And so when she said, I want to put this out there, but it's only half the story, I was like, no, that feels right. It feels, yeah, I think it needs to be told. And even if it just impacts one, mother and daughter or mother and son, that feels very valuable. So
Or even one daughter, one mom, right? Like this journey could have been just one of our journeys,
Yeah.
but we got the
Mm-hmm.
gift of it getting to be both of ours. Yeah.
Well, thank y'all for your transparency because there is no guide to parenting. And I was listening to you and I was like, oh, she's talking about me a little bit. I was a little bit controlling with my son, but my mindset was, well, I really want the best for him. I don't want him to have to go through the things that I was going through. But when he really sat down and told me how I was making him feel, I was like,
Broke your heart.
it
Yeah.
really did. It really did. And so we went on a healing journey as well. So that's why I thank you for your transparency. I love it.
Yes, that's
Awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, speaking of journey,
yeah.
what was the most difficult part of your journey to talk about publicly? And Amanda, I'll start with you. What's been the hardest part to open up about? And Melanie, you're more than welcome. Feel free to add your thoughts as well.
Yeah. Gosh, the moment you said my name, I felt myself overwhelmed with emotion. I'm like, ooh, this was a really hard. The book is, you mentioned vulnerability. It's very vulnerable. And throughout the writing process, I was in therapy. I was going through my mental health journey and healing journey, and I was going through a divorce. And so my whole heart, I was open heart surgery. It was like in the thick of it. And so not only did I think I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to therapy, I'm gonna work through my divorce stuff. Here we go. It like shattered open my childhood, my relationship with my mom, things that I even had thought we had already worked through. We're writing this book and it's therapy all in itself, and it's unveiling more things that I'm like, oh, this hurts.
Mhm.
So I think sharing publicly the intricacies of being in it, the readers get to see and be on the journey with me as I'm going through it. I think that
Mhm.
was the most vulnerable. There's church, like spiritual abuse that comes up in the book that I was processing through as well. And so kind of coming to terms with my childhood and how that actually led me into the marriage I was in and the choices that I made and the person I became. It was
Mhm.
like, all right, I don't even recognize who I am, and we're working on it, and I'm sharing this with everybody. And there was one moment where I'm like, I can't take this back.
Right.
So I would say the whole book is really
That's true.
but it's helped. It's also
Yeah.
I lived in secrecy as a teenager and into early adulthood, and hiding was my means of survival. And so I was like, you know what? Putting this out there is like helping with the shame, and we're doing it. So
Yeah.
kind of jumped off the cliff and went for it.
All right. Melanie, did you have anything else that you wanted to add
Yeah,
or anything like that?
I think for me, the vulnerable part was two aspects. One was, um, nobody who uses control as a mechanism to protect, right? Like I use control to protect my kids. I
Right.
use control to protect myself. I got there because of exposure in my own childhood, right?
Mhm.
And so, I was exposing parts of my childhood, which puts a light on my parents that felt vulnerable. And I didn't want anyone in the story to become the villain.
Yeah.
So we fought really hard in the beginning of the forward, we talk about um there's no villains to this story. It's just hurting people trying to figure it out,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
so that was the vulnerable part, right? Like, oh, there could be trolls or people who don't understand. And I'm putting something very vulnerable and real out there into the world to help people.
Right.
And it very well could backfire on me. I could be the monster, right?
Mhm.
Oh, so scary.
Yeah. Amanda, you mentioned about therapy, and I'm so glad that you highlighted on that because there are so many stigmas around reaching out to a therapist, life coach, or whatever the case may be, and people will suffer in silence. So I'm glad that you saw, you know what, let me let me deal with this and let me get some therapy. And this conversation, I don't know, I feel like I already know y'all, but this conversation is like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like so healthy. So I know that the viewers who will come on later, this should resonate to everybody, whether it's daughter, son, whatever the case may be. So thank y'all again for being very transparent.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So relationships. How did your relationship change as both of you began focusing on your mental health? And Amanda, you can share how your relationship with your mom shifted as both of you started focusing on your healing journey.
Yeah, I would say that it's beautiful how I didn't go into it thinking I'm gonna do this so that I can be closer to my mom, and
Mm,
how it was a byproduct of healing and going after the root of things. But the beauty of the fact that we were both on our own separate journeys, we were able to, I mean, I've always been close with my mom in a sense that I tell her a lot of stuff. There was, I process things with her, but there was always growing up, if I was more serious about something or it was more important to me, I was a little bit more protective of it because
mhm,
for her to get her hands on it,
Analyze it.
analyze it,
apart.
dissect it, and then micromanage me in the process.
Yeah.
And so, and she started to realize that But then as we're going through our own healing journeys, I'm, coming out of shame and hiding, and then I'm seeing her become softer, more open. She's actually coming to me with conversations of like, hey, I realized growing up I wasn't very nurturing, or I realized that I didn't show up for you in the ways that you needed, and I didn't protect you. And she's having these conversations with me where I'm like, what? Someone's becoming self-aware in a way that I have not seen. And so she kind of, stepped in with being vulnerable and opening up space for there to be room for, she's even saying like, hey, if you need to bring anything back around, if we need to talk about some of these things, really opened up and helped kind of create that safe space for it. And so then I've been able to come back. And so as we've done that, and, it's kind of organically, but intentionally too, it wasn't just by happenstance,
We were both doing our work.
Exactly. But it's just beautiful how it's like both parties separately doing the work, and how that creates these little bridges to where now I feel like we've had confrontations, we've had really great conversations, and I like, we even had a since recently where I was like, I got to tell you something, I feel shame about it. And she's like, okay. And I was like, wow, I don't feel the ways that I've felt in the past. Like, I don't feel like I need to sugarcoat or even like wait to get found,
Yeah.
So,
Well, and she's a grown ass woman.
and I'm an adult, right? I'm in my 30s. But sometimes you go back to that triggered state of like, why do I feel 16 again?
Yes.
And then, but it's cool how we both have the language too, like being on our own journeys and being able to be like, I feel 16.
And it was a messy process. We're talking about it after the fact. Right. There were really messy conversations, tears, shaking, tears.
Oh my God, so much shaking.
It's not clean. It's not a clean process.
No.
Yeah.
Right. And something you said is probably one of my favorite words that has helped me so much. You said the word root cause. And I try to explain to people all the time, when you get to the root cause, it could be so impactful on your journey to recovery or your journey of healing once you get to the root. And sometimes it hurts. We don't want to go to the root. We just want to just snip off at the top. And that's not be helpful. So again, this conversation, I love this. This is good. This is good.
I love that you brought in the root cause and the snipping because of the book being root bound, and you never know what's going on with the roots underneath. And I love that you brought that back in there.
Yeah. The roots you don't see, on top you see a beautiful plant or whatever, but you don't know what's going on with the root. So I want to ask you, were there moments that you wanted to give up on the process, either healing or writing? And Melanie, I'll start with you. Were there any moments that you just kind of felt like, I don't want to do this? And Amanda, I'd love to hear your take on it too.
Yeah. I never had moments where I didn't want to do it, but I did have moments that it was really hard, and I had to remind myself in the healing journey and in the book writing, I asked for this. Like,
Yeah.
and I want you to keep in mind, Amanda's dealing with me in her journey, but I have 3 children that I'm working stuff out with. And really honestly just 2, because my son is my youngest. He got the most healed version of me, right? And so I remember my other daughter sitting there confronting me on something and telling me some really hard things. And I'm starting to feel my nervous system rattle, right? And I'm starting to feel myself get defensive. And I go, nope, you asked her to do this. You asked her to do this, and she's doing it. Be proud of her. Don't make it about you. Let it be about her. And so I had to make that adjustment, and those adjustments in the moment, right? And if I needed to, I could have been like, hey, can we pause? I need to recoup myself a little bit. I could have done those things and taken care of myself. It's my job to take care of myself, not her job to take care of me.
Right.
right? So those were the moments that were hard.
Yeah, I think for me, it was really, there was many moments where, like, if I'm being super honest, she'd be like, have you written today? And I'm like, oh, no. And, and so I have a business. And so, there's other things going on. And I'm like, I don't want to write. And even just being in therapy, and I'm like, I don't want to, it's like, it's all a lot. Like, I would write and then I would feel like, no, this isn't anything that I want to share with the world.
Yeah.
And then she would help remind me, hey, just get it out. You can clean it up later. It doesn't mean you have to publish all of this,
Right.
but you can go back and change it.
Yep.
And so that felt like it took a lot of the pressure off. I also deal with a lot of perfectionism. And so I would get writing blocks and mental blocks that it has to look a certain way. And so it was really good to work through that and experience that. But there's so many steps of just I would say, practicality of like just writing process. It wasn't so much the thinking about the book being published and maybe I don't want this out there, but it was just the work of putting it in and writing it and getting it out. So
yeah. I was definitely the publisher going like,
oh, she was.
Here's our deadline.
She's giving me deadlines. Yeah, she's like, all right, I need you to have 3 chapters by this date. And I'm like, oh my God, I hate being told what to do right now.
But when she would struggle, we would have a talk. I'm a life coach. And so
yeah, it helps.
I would like life coach her through it and be like, there's a reason you're not doing this. Let's find that out and address that instead of just the behavior of not writing, right?
You got back to the root cause.
Yeah, the root cause.
The root cause,
Yeah.
So it sounds like writing also helped you guys to heal, or was part of your healing journey. And it's I've been through my own journey, but it just feels so good when you get to that place, a healed place. And I just, the relationship that I see between you two, I love it because it's authentic. You're saying, listen, we had some good times, we had some tough times, but we put things in place and we made it and we're here. So I'm so grateful y'all came on. I did not know the interview was going to turn out like this. I love this is good. I love this.
For having us. Yeah. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. I do want to say, like, we will have tough times again, right? Like,
yeah,
we will have tough times again, and we do have tools now, but we also do have nervous systems, and sometimes our nervous system takes over and our tools can't, right? Like, I get triggered and I might react, right? And then what I have found is the important part has been not to try to be perfect all the time, but to know how to clean up a mess. Like I don't have to be perfect in my relationships. I just need to know how to clean up a mess. And what that does is it frees me up to get to show up and be authentic and real and me, but also not walking on pins and needles. Cause I did do that for a little while. As a mom, I did that for a little while. I was trying to be the good mom and trying not to offend and right. And what they got from me was an energy of trying to fix it.
Yeah. In a diluted version of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I had to, what can I do? Like trying to be a good mom or a perfect mom or whatever wasn't the answer. It was, I got to show up authentically me. And if I do it wrong, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I know how to clean up a mess.
That's good. I love that. Oh Lord, this is good advice. I'm writing, so I'm jotting things. When I look away, I'm jotting things down.
I see that.
This is good. This is good. And so my last question.
Okay.
What's one thing you hope people take away after reading Rootbound, and where can they purchase your book? So whoever wants to take this question on, feel free.
I hope that people take away, my hope has always been that somewhere at some point they could find themselves in the story. It's been pretty exciting to see people come back and be like, oh my gosh, I saw myself in both Amanda and Melanie.
Mhm.
And I thought I would only relate to one, but I actually related to both.
Mm,
So I think even seeing, you know, even if they have no background with like growing up in the church or anything like that, and they don't connect to some of the spiritual aspects, even if it's just having a controlling parent or feeling like they're a controlling parent, or I
mhm,
think, just being able to find themselves in the story and to feel hope. I think that's my biggest thing is seeing like, okay, even if my parent isn't willing to do the work, because I know it is very unique that my mom has gone on her own journey, and I have friends who they're like, oh, my mom would never.
Mhm.
But even just to see the hope of like, okay, but if I do the work for me,
Yeah.
then I
mhm,
learn how to show up for myself and then have the boundaries I need to. And just to see that there's hope, whether it looks like reconciliation or maybe it
mhm,
doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about that, as we were writing the book, we're like, what about our friend who we know we would never want her to try to do this process with her mom because her mom's abusive.
Yeah.
Like,
mm,
as people read our story, we hope they don't try to just duplicate,
Right.
but that
right.
they honor their own story. And if they have an abusive child or an abusive parent, that they do that in a safe way, whatever reconciliation looks like. Sometimes that's just here,
Yeah.
like in your own heart.
Mhm,
And once you get okay in your own self and in your own heart and you've resolved it, then interactions with them aren't as loaded. They're not as fiery, right?
Mhm.
So, yes, everything Amanda said, I agree. And I also hope, like, one of the biggest work that I did in the very beginning when I started going after this was shame resilience. And I hope people can see the shame resilience inside of our story and start working on their own shame resilience. And it's not something we actually point out in the story, but it is
mhm,
a thread that is through it, that there's no way I could have done any of that work, or Amanda could have done any of that work, let alone put the story out to the world
mhm,
without shame resilience.
Mm.
Shame used to tell me who I was, what I could do, what I can't do. And I don't let shame have that place in my life anymore. Shame wanted to, make me feel bad when my daughter's trying to have a confronting combo.
Yeah.
Shame wants to say, you suck, you're a horrible mother. Look, there's the proof. No, let love arise. Let love tell you. You asked for this connection. This is what it's going to take. Stay in the hard
mhm.
thing. Stay in the hard thing. So shame resilience. I hope everybody works on that.
And then where can they find the book?
Oh, they can find the book on Amazon, amazon.com.
Amazon.com.
Okay. Well, I will make sure. I'm going to go on Amazon myself and find the link, and so I'll make sure to put that um, as part of the description for people too, so they can check it out. So I just want to thank you all again for coming on and sharing your story of resilience and just being transparent, and your honesty was just breathtaking. The way you've worked through healing both individually and together. And I think the viewers later on, again, I think it's going to resonate. They'll be able to connect with this podcast. And I thank you for coming on to the podcast. Empowering Minds is all about talking about the stigmas around mental health, resilience, healing, recovery. And you all have helped me do that today. So I appreciate you both.
Thank
I'm
you.
so glad. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. I'll be in contact with you all soon.
Okay,
All
sounds
right.
good.
Take care. Have a great day.
Yes,
Thank
you
you.
too.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.